information, where do we go from here?
Okay, so with this information, the way this works is phenomenal because it's not about doing anything. You don't have to do anything to release these energies. Just knowing what a chain looks like, that knowledge, that information will allow those energies to discharge. The electromagnetic force that is holding this information in your cells is locked into this sequence, into this chain. And there is a law in physics that's called the law of assimilation and dissimilation. And what that states is that if there's a closed system, and we're all closed systems, in a closed system, in order to maintain integrity, when you're trying to take it apart energetically, and that's what we're trying to do, is take apart the energies in our bodies, release those energies in our bodies that are attracting stress for us. In order to do that, you have to do it in the reverse order in which it occurred. This is the law of assimilation and dissimilation. So when we look at a person's chart and we have the ages, we can see the order. We can see the order that this stress pattern, this frequency, we can see the order of it. And so we always start with the most recent year. So if our change shows up and only the ages from 33 to 3 appear, then we start with age 33. And so we'll look at age 33 and see what dichotomy is operating. What emotion is involved. The organ. We see the function and malfunction of that organ. And we can see how it relates to age 33, what happened, what the concept is, what the emotional charge is. We can see how it relates. And what we do is we go through a process of addressing, this is where we go from here, of addressing each of these ages until we unravel that DNA chain that holds this information in sequence, where it's constantly broadcasting out energies to attract people, places, circumstances, and events that create the stress in your life, that create the sickness, the disease, the discomfort. Okay? Once we discharge it, those energies are gone. And they'll never, ever, from here to eternity, ever be part of your energy matrix again. Because once you become aware of something, you can't become unaware of it. Once that consciousness is revealed, then you know it. That information is part of your database. So this is all about being conscious, not doing consciousness. You can't do consciousness, you be conscious. And this tool gives us the ability to be conscious of the invisible belief systems and the unconscious programming in our DNA that make up who we are and what our lives look like.
So that explains my experience in having participated thus far, in doing this. Is that I feel I'm having the experience in moving forward and releasing and reaching levels that I seek to achieve.
That's right. So when it's not that you're doing anything, you're just...
I'm having the experience.
You're having the experiencing.
And then having the awareness.
Right, through the awareness that those discharges come, and there's this line of infinity that goes from infinity past to infinity present. And we're moving along this path, like this, having our highs and lows in life. But the ideal is to be as close to this path of information, of knowledge, of peace, of bliss, as we possibly can. Being one with the source, being full of light, having full knowledge and consciousness, being in control of our creative forces, so that we can manifest the Christ being of who we are, rather than living in our stress pattern.
Did you say that number 14 was mind?
Yes.
It's interesting that you listed them as organs and glands, but why wouldn't that come under the brain since it's not an actual physical?
Well, the brain is the physical component, and the mind is the energetic component. Every cell has a mind. the
So
consciousness.
why wouldn't that be the last one then, the strongest of the?
No, because it can be penetrated. When you use, in fact, you see here how I go from age 15 to age 30? This is a 3-year pattern, for instance. Well, when you start interfering with the healing process or the growth process, not addressing things in the sequence, reverse order, what happens is if you have a sequence like this and you start looking at this issue here and you start delving into different psychic games or hypnosis or psychotherapy or drugs or anything that affects the psyche, the mind, what you get, you create a black hole. The energy pattern, the frequency is no longer has integrity. You've now created a vacuum in there. And this is why we don't see age 18 show up here. It skips from age 15 to age 30 or whatever the ages might be. The pattern is interrupted, and this is what we call a black hole. And everything gets pulled into this vortex. So the mind can also be penetrated with these energy entities. See, when you understand about life force energy, you have a whole new respect for all these different programs that we're playing with. Because they will create an impact energetically on your light body. And we can measure it and even tell you what the concept of was when that occurred. All of creation is all about space and pressure. And only one energy entity can occupy a space at a single time. Only I can stand in this spot at this moment in time and space. You can't stand in this spot. You stand next to me. Only I can occupy this space. And when we start bringing in energies through different modalities, these forces come into our being. And they try to establish a place of, they become parasites, energy parasites. And they're trying to take over this space and operate in this space. And sometimes consciously or unconsciously, we allow that to happen. And it will create a real mess in maintaining the integrity of who you truly are at a core level, your soul being. We had a question back here next.
I'm going through a program right now that's called the AIM program. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's supposed to work with your energy. And I was wondering how that would.
Yeah, there's a lot of programs out there that are working with energy. How are you establishing in what order you should address the different energy imprints of your being? Are you just guessing? Well, in this program, you have a some sort of format. There's formats where you don't have the life map. You don't have the sequence showing the process of ionization, how these energies came together, and how they come apart to form new energies constantly. How the DNA chain is formed. If you're not doing it in the sequential order and the reverse order in which it occurred, this is where you get these black holes. You lose integrity in the energy structure of the being.
Have there any work with psychedelic drugs and alcohol as regards black holes and how it interrupts patterns?
Yeah, those energy entities never leave the body. Over-the-counter medications and prescription drugs takes up to 7 years to remove those energies out of the body. When you have a sexual a relationship with someone, you're exchanging body fluids. It takes 7 years to pull those frequencies out of the liver. So these energy entities are constantly penetrating our being, trying to take possession. This is what possession is. So this is kind of like doing an exorcism, but using scientific principles to accomplish it. Yes?
This is a question I'd like to make sure I put things in order to understand. This is a healing program,
Yes.
and you call it this chain, you call it Signature of Soul.
Yes.
That's the name of the program.
Yes.
And this does not, I mean, this is another program to heal emotions, or basically.
Not just emotions.
Just emotions.
Multidimensional healing.
As opposed to psychologists or psychiatrists, whatever, which they can give you drugs or things like that. this does not require any of this stuff.
No, we have formulated homeopathic formulas that are infused with the frequency of each of the organs. So if you have organ 3 in the cause, and organ 10 in the core, and organ 14 in the effect, then you would utilize these 3 stress pattern remedies to help the body discharge the energies in those organs.
So you have to consume some kind of herbs?
Well, you don't have to, but it benefits you to utilize these for the homeopathic.
Who's the one with Egyptians?
Well, it's dictated by the chain that is yours. And once you complete the questionnaire, a chart, your signature, the soul chart, is generated. It'll show the sequence of organs up here. Okay, the cause, the core, and the effect. It'll show your organs. And then it'll show the cause age, how old you were when this pattern first was established. It'll tell you how much of your life it represents, whether it's 30% of your life, or whether it's from prenatal to present, or whether it's from womb to present. It also will show you the ages of the traumas and what your efficiency is, how efficient you are at manifesting your soul strengths. Everything is based in mathematics. Everything that can be expressed or exist has a number, a frequency to it. So each question on the questionnaire has a value, a numerical value, based on the frequency of that questionnaire, the information that it generates. When you start the questionnaire, you want to complete it within 15 minutes. Okay, let me take this question over here because he's been waiting. Bill?
What about a past life experience? Does that get manifest? I mean, how does that show up?
Yeah, you see, yeah, and it'll show up in this chain if that's the energies that are influencing you and driving your life right now.
So that could be a cause.
Yes.
How would that show up on this? It wouldn't show up as an age?
Yes, because it's a pattern. These are patterns that repeat themselves energetically, whether it's from a pattern from a previous life or whether it's this life. That energy pattern is resonant in your DNA, and as it's being broadcast, it's a repeat. And it'll show the ages of that repeating. But in the aspect that indicates how much of this chain, how much of your life this chain represents, it will say it represents, previous life or prenatal. It'll tell us if this chain is an influence of energies from another life or if it's from, this life.
Okay, I mentioned that this will show up in the sequence, but can it also be triggered by a situation?
It's actually, that's an interesting point. But what's actually happening is the situation is being triggered by the energies within you. This is what the experiment with the phantom DNA showed, that the energies in the environment respond to the DNA programming. And so even if you're not in the location where there's, something going on, you don't even have to be in the presence at that moment to attract energies tomorrow that will influence you.
I'm wondering how this is different from homeopathy, sequential homeopathy, where they go through your life history and come up with tinctures like this for different issues.
So you're talking about like Bach flower remedies and when you address, see, it's the same thing. They're looking at the emotional impact that you have, but they're not doing it in sequential order.
And they don't have the mathematical equation.
You want to maintain immunity. You want to maintain control. It has to be in the sequential order. When life comes together, when cells are formed, when stars are born, everything in life is sequential. So why would we expect to experience healing in any other form other than, this form, in the reverse order in which it occurred? What we think is healing is nothing more than moving the energies around in our body. See? Space and pressure. Either there's too much space or there's too much pressure. That's one of the dichotomies of life. So if you're dealing with an issue in your life where there's too much pressure, and you start trying to dislodge that, okay? For instance, this is our DNA sequence here, okay? And you think back in your life about an experience you had, and it's this one right here. And so you pull it out. See, once there was a lot of pressure there holding that energy in. And when you bring conscious awareness to it, it loosens it up, creating space now. Everything in the universe is either space or pressure. The atom, the nucleus of the atom is held together by pressure. But yet within that nucleus there's space between the proton and the neutron. Between the nucleus and the electrons there's space. But there's pressure holding those energy particles together.
So it's better to let it go.
So, yeah, but if you address it in any other order than the sequential order, what you're doing is you're creating a lack of integrity in this energy system. You're creating space where there once was pressure, or if things were too loose, not enough friction, not enough, energy coming together, then you want to bring more pressure into the system so that you're not feeling spacey or dizzy or lost. You bring more pressure, more solidification into the energy pattern, and it becomes a solid, strong energy field. So whenever you're dealing with energies and you're doing what is called popularly in pop consciousness movement and in holistic healing as a healing or energy healing, be very careful, because if you're not addressing it in the sequential order, all you're doing is creating space where there once was pressure, or creating pressure where there once was space, and you create this vacuum in here where you end up with black holes and you're losing the integrity. And let me tell you, when this energy being, the spirit that animates this life form, leaves this body, and this body goes to dust, and you being a being of light, if there are any black holes in your being, your body of light, you're not going to go very far. Things are just going to get sucked into that black hole. And so in the other worlds, in the other dimensions of spirit, you want to make sure that you're building a body of integrity.
So the idea is to keep it together?
You can take apart the aspects of your life that don't work, but you must, in order to maintain that togetherness, that integrity, do it in the reverse order in which it occurred. It's like peeling an onion. This is how the Creator designed our reality, our world.
Plucking the artichoke and getting to the heart.
Any other questions? That's the equation for perfect health. That's the equation for harmony. That represents the path of least resistance for biological life. And what we do when we look at a person's urine and saliva, we find out where your numbers are. Your profile may look something like this.
Buddha.
Pretty good.
Well, this would be Buddha. This would be, the
Good stuff.
spiritual, enlightened being. Perfection manifested in the flesh. But maybe your numbers look like this. See, the further you are away from this perfect equation, the less light is in your cells. This is actually measuring how much light is in your body. Not only on a physical level, but an emotional, spiritual, mental level as well. How much light is in your life? And the more information that we have, knowledge is power. The more information we have about ourselves and our lives, the more power we have, the more control. People suffer for lack of knowledge. And the less light you have in your body, the less power you have, the less harmony and peace and health you have. The further you are away from this profile, the more darkness is in your being. And if you can become conscious and aware of how that darkness is being manifested, how that darkness is getting into you, and bring the light to it. If you can bring light to the darkness, you'll bring healing. And so this system brings light, consciousness, into our beings. And the healing just unfolds automatically. You don't have to do anything about it. Your life just automatically starts to shift.
Please, let's say, is a child, let's say 12 years old, but all her life, the little girl, she was abused mentally and psychologically, and she created an asthma. To me, it seems like this is an effect.
It's an effect. It's not the cause. This will tell you what the cause is. And then once you release the cause Energetically,
So
the
there is
effect
there is a
heals.
hope for that kid?
Oh, yeah, of course. There's always hope. As long as there is breath, there is hope. Now, mass has its limitations. Mass, being the physical body, has its limitations. But we can tell you, based on your numbers, how long, in months or years, it would take you to recover and achieve balance and perfect health.
This is
Panel. This test tells us everything about you. There's nothing that we can't understand, because this is your number. This is who you are in a mathematical frequency. This is who you are. Through this program, we're able to see our lives from the eyes of God. We're able to see the book of life.
exactly, this goes from the creation.
That's right, from creation. We're able to see the book of life, our life map.
Right.
How it,
With all the
is
rules
designed-
and the terms in every way.
every way. How it was designed, what's its purpose, what's the form and function of it. And to give you control. So we live in a participatory universe. Physics has already established that. What Braden is talking about, the suppositions that he's making, we're giving you the practical application of it.
The reasons why we are what we are, why we act the way we act.
The who, the what, the where, the why, the when.
That's
The
exactly.
answers lie within you.
Right.
But how do you access that information?
But we never knew.
Right here. This is how you access. This is how it's done.